Your $65,000 GMC has a known defect, and one owner found out when his engine died on a bridge at 8,250 miles. Brand new truck, $15,000 repair. GM knew. They opened 3 federal investigations and closed everyone. 28,000 complaints sat in a government database, while GM sold 600,000 more trucks with the same problem. This is the full story they don't want public. Let's start with the one GM can't deny, because the federal government finally made them act. In April of 2025, General Motors issued a recall covering approximately 600,000 vehicles equipped with the 6.2-liter L87 V8 engine. GMC trucks and Yukons from the 2021 through 2024 model years. NHTSA, campaign number 25, V274. GM, recall number N252494000. 600,000 vehicles. That number alone should tell you this isn't a small batch manufacturing error. This is a systemic defect baked into years of production. The cause? Defective connecting rods and crankshafts sourced from 2 suppliers, American Axle and Questum Macamex. The components had manufacturing defects that could lead to catastrophic engine failure while driving. Not at startup, not in a parking lot. While you are driving your truck down the highway at 70 miles per hour with your family inside. Here's what makes this infuriating. GM didn't discover this in April of 2025. They opened their first investigation in 2022. They reviewed the data. They closed the investigation without action. Then, they opened a second investigation, reviewed the data again, closed it again. Then, a third investigation. Same result. 3 separate looks at the same problem. 3 separate decisions to do nothing. While those investigations opened and closed like a revolving door, 28,102 complaints piled up in the NHTSA database. That's 28,000 GMC owners formally telling the federal government that something was wrong with their trucks. 14,332 of those complaints, more than half, involved engines losing power while the vehicle was in motion. 12 accidents, 12 injuries, all documented, all on file. And during those 3 years of investigations and complaints and injuries, GM continued selling the same trucks with the same engines off the same production line to new buyers at $65,000 a pop. Not a word to the public, not a service bulletin, not a dealer advisory, nothing. When the recall finally came in April 2025, GM issued an official statement. Quote, GM will voluntarily recall certain vehicles equipped with 6.2-liter L87 engines to resolve manufacturing issues. The safety and satisfaction of our customers are the highest priorities for the entire GM team. Voluntarily. After 3 years, after 28,000 complaints, after 12 injuries, after being backed into a corner by NHTSA with no room left to stall. That's their definition of voluntary. And here's the part that should make every GMC owner's blood pressure spike. GM's recommended repair for trucks affected by this recall. A change in oil weight from 0W20 to 0W40. That's it. Thicker oil to mask the symptoms of defective connecting rods and crankshafts. Owners in every GMC forum online are calling it exactly what it is. A band-aid on a broken bone. For trucks where the thicker oil doesn't prevent failure, the engine replacement cost runs $15,000 to $25,000. On a truck that cost $65,000 when it was new. On a defect GM knew about for 3 years. Oh, and one more detail. GM quietly fixed the manufacturing defect at the supplier level starting in June of 2024 for the 2025 model year. They corrected the problem at the factory, but they didn't tell existing owners of 2021 through 2024 trucks that their engines had the unfixed components. They just kept selling new ones and stayed silent on the old ones until the recall forced their hand 10 months later. GM identified a catastrophic engine defect in their 6.2, investigated it 3 times, closed all 3 investigations, waded through 28,000 complaints and 12 injuries, fixed it quietly at the factory for new trucks, and offered thicker oil as a solution for the 600,000 already on the road. That's not a recall. That's damage control. But the 6.2 recall, as bad as it is, at least resulted in official action. The next defect has been destroying GMC engines for over a decade, and there is no recall. Not now. Possibly not ever. Remember the owner from the hook, engine dead on a bridge, 8,250 miles on a brand new truck. That wasn't a 6.2, that was a 5.3. And his story is one of thousands. In August of 2021, a class action lawsuit was filed against General Motors. Harrison et al. Versus General Motors LLC. The firms behind it, Berger Montague and Capstone Law. The claim that GM knowingly designed, manufactured, and sold vehicles with defective active fuel management lifters in their 5.3, 6.0, and 6.2 V8 engines from 2014 to present. Active Fuel Management, AFM, the system that deactivates half your cylinders under light load to save fuel. The lifters that make it work are hydraulically actuated. They lock and unlock hundreds of times per hour of driving, and they fail consistently, predictably, across hundreds of thousands of trucks. When an AFM lifter collapses, it takes out the pushrod. The collapsed lifter grinds against the camshaft lobe. Metal shavings enter the oil system. The repair bill: pull the heads, replace all 16 lifters, replace the camshaft, flush the oil system, reassemble. $6,000 to $10,000 out of the owner's pocket. If this kind of information matters to you, hit subscribe and like this video. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps more GMC owners see this. Let's keep going. The class action makes a specific allegation that should concern every GMC owner reading the fine print. The lawsuit claims that when GM replaced failed AFM lifters under warranty, they replaced them with the same defective part design. Not an updated part, not a revised design. The same lifter that already failed once, installed again, set up to fail again. The lawsuit alleges GM knew this and did it anyway to minimize warranty repair costs. The owner whose engine died on the bridge at 8,250 miles. That's in the court filing. Brand new truck, less than 9,000 miles. Complete engine failure in traffic on a bridge. Think about that for a second. Not 100,000 miles, not 50,000, 8,250 on a truck that probably still had the dealer plate frame on it. GM has issued multiple technical service bulletins acknowledging AFM lifter issues across multiple model years. TSBs are GM's internal admission that a problem exists and is widespread enough to warrant a documented repair procedure. But a TSB is not a recall. A TSB doesn't require GM to notify owners. A TSB doesn't require GM to pay for the repair. A TSB just sits in the dealer's service system, invisible to you unless you specifically ask for it or your mechanic happens to look it up. So, GM acknowledges the problem internally through TSBs, gets sued in federal court by a class of affected owners, has documented evidence of failures under 9,000 miles, and the response? No recall. Not in 2021 when the lawsuit was filed, not in 2022, not in 2023, not in 2024. And as of today, still no recall on AFM lifters. Zero. The 5.3 AFM lifter defect has been destroying engines for over a decade. It's the subject of a federal class action. GM replaces failed parts with the same failed design, and there is no recall. $6,000 to $10,000. That's what GMC owners pay to fix a defect the manufacturer has known about since before the truck left the factory. Now, you might think these are two isolated issues, a 6.2 connecting rod problem and a 5.3 lifter problem. But when you step back and look at how GM handles both of them, you start seeing a pattern, and that pattern is the real story. Here's something most GMC owners don't understand about technical service bulletins, and GM is counting on that ignorance. A recall means GM has identified a safety defect and is legally required to notify every affected owner, provide a free repair, and report everything to NHTSA. A recall costs GM millions, sometimes billions. It generates headlines. It damages the brand. It shows up in resale value data. A technical service bulletin costs GM almost nothing. A TSB is an internal document sent to dealership service departments. It tells the technicians, here's a known problem, here's the diagnostic procedure, here's the approved repair. But GM has no legal obligation to tell you the TSB exists. They don't have to mail you a letter. They don't have to post it on their website. They don't have to pay for the repair unless you're still within the factory warranty period. So what happens in practice is this. You bring your GMC to the dealer with an engine tick, a rough idle, or a vibration at highway speed. The service advisor runs the diagnostics. The technician finds the problem. Collapsed lifter, worn cam lobe, whatever the failure mode is. If you're outside the factory warranty window, the advisor hands you a repair estimate for $6,000 to $10,000 and wishes you a nice day. What they don't tell you is that a TSB exists for that exact problem, that GM has formally acknowledged the defect in an internal document, that the repair procedure is already written and standardized because so many trucks have the same failure. They know, the technician knows, The service manager knows. The document is right there in their system, but telling you about it doesn't benefit them because you're already outside warranty and the TSB doesn't obligate GM to pay. This is the gap GM exploits. The space between "we know about the problem" and "we're required to fix it." TSBs let GM acknowledge a pattern of failures, which protects them legally, without triggering the cost and publicity of a recall. It's a documented admission that lives in the shadows of the dealership service system. The AFM lifter issue has multiple TSBs across multiple model years. The 6.2 connecting rod issue had internal documentation before the recall. In both cases, GM used the TSB system to manage the problem quietly, deal with warranty claims case by case, and avoid the financial hit of a full recall for as long as physically possible. A TSB is GM's way of saying, "We know this breaks," without saying, "We'll fix it for free." Every GMC owner should ask their dealer for all open TSBs on their specific VIN every single time they visit the service department. If you don't ask, they won't tell you. That's by design. The TSBs are just the first layer. The next step in GM's playbook is even more frustrating, because this is where they turn the warranty itself into an obstacle course. Let's say you're still within your factory warranty period. Your 5.3 develops the classic AFM lifter tick at 35,000 miles. You're covered, right? Powertrain warranty, known defect, documented TSB should be straightforward. Not so fast. GM created something called power component coverage for certain known failure patterns. On paper, it looks generous. Extended coverage on specific internal engine components beyond the standard powertrain warranty. In practice, it comes with conditions designed to slow down and discourage claims. One of those conditions, for certain repairs under certain coverage extensions, you may need a minimum of 2 documented service visits for the same complaint before the dealer will authorize a full teardown repair under warranty. 2 visits, that means you bring the truck in with an engine tick. The technician confirms abnormal noise. They document it. They send you home. You drive the truck with a known defective lifter ticking away inside the engine until the problem gets bad enough to bring it back a second time. Then, after the second documented visit, the process for an authorized warranty repair can begin. During those miles between visit 1 and visit 2, the collapsed lifter is grinding against the cam lobe. Metal is entering the oil. The damage is compounding every single drive cycle. You're driving a truck with a documented defect, waiting for bureaucratic permission to fix it while the repair bill gets bigger with every mile. And that's if the dealer cooperates. Forums and owner groups are full of stories from GMC owners who brought their trucks in with textbook AFM lifter symptoms, documented tick, confirmed by multiple mechanics, only to have the dealer say the noise is within normal operating characteristics. Claim denied. Come back if it gets worse. The financial incentive is simple. Every warranty repair costs the dealer labor hours that GM reimburses at a rate lower than the dealer's retail labor rate. Dealers lose money on warranty work compared to customer pay work. The fewer warranty claims they process, the better their margins. GM's coverage conditions give dealers the bureaucratic cover to delay or deny claims without technically violating the warranty terms. Here's what every GMC owner needs to know. The Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, 15 U.S.C. Section 2302, places the burden of proof on the warrantor, not the consumer. If your truck has a covered defect within the warranty period, GM must prove that something you did cause the failure. They cannot simply deny the claim because you used an aftermarket oil filter or didn't get every service done at the dealer. Know this law. Print it out. Bring it with you. GM's warranty process for known defects is designed to exhaust your patience before it exhausts their budget. Document everything in writing, get every diagnosis on paper, record every service visit, and know your rights under Magnuson-Moss because the dealer is betting you don't. All of this, the defects, the delayed recalls, the TSB game, the warranty walls, it leads to one question. Why? Why does the largest automaker in America operate this way? The answer isn't complicated, it's math. Every decision GM makes on these defects comes down to a cost calculation. And when you understand the math, the pattern makes perfect sense, even if it makes you furious. Start with AFM and DFM. the active fuel management and dynamic fuel management systems that are destroying lifters in 5.3s and 6.2s across the country. GM cannot remove these systems from production. They are essential to meeting corporate average fuel economy, CAFE, standards mandated by the federal government. Without cylinder deactivation showing fuel savings on the EPA test cycle, GM's truck fleet fuel economy numbers fall below the legal threshold. The fines for non-compliance are massive. Eliminating AFM and DFM would cost GM more in CAFE penalties than the lifter failures cost them in warranty claims. So the lifters keep failing, the replacements are the same design, the TSBs keep getting issued, and GM keeps selling trucks with the system active because the regulatory math says it's cheaper to fix broken engines one at a time than to redesign the system or pay the fuel economy penalties. The 6.2 connecting rod recall follows the same logic but with a different timeline. GM identified the manufacturing defect at American Axle and Questum Massimex. They opened an investigation in 2022. The data showed a pattern, but issuing a recall on 600,000 vehicles, that's hundreds of millions of dollars in repair costs, dealer labor, replacement parts, logistics, and brand damage. So they closed the investigation, opened another one, closed that one too, bought time, reduced the financial exposure quarter by quarter. Meanwhile, they quietly fixed the manufacturing process at the supplier level starting in June 2024. New trucks rolling off the line after that date had corrected components. But the 600,000 trucks already on the road, the ones owners were driving every day, those still had the defective parts. GM knew which VINs were affected. They had the data. They chose to wait. When the recall finally came in April 2025, it wasn't because GM had a change of heart. It was because NHTSA pressure, public complaints, media coverage, and legal exposure made further delay more expensive than the recall itself. The tipping point wasn't 28,000 complaints. It wasn't 12 injuries. It was the moment the financial risk of not recalling exceeded the financial cost of recalling. That's the calculation. Every time, and the recommended fix tells you everything you need to know about GM's priorities. For a defect caused by faulty connecting rods and crankshafts, structural metal components with manufacturing flaws, the fix is a change in oil viscosity, from 0W20 to 0W40. Thicker oil to cushion the defective components, not new connecting rods, not a new crankshaft, not an engine replacement. Thicker oil. For the owners whose engines have already failed or will fail despite the thicker oil, $15,000 to $25,000. On a truck that GM sold for $65,000, knowing the defect existed, on a problem GM investigated 3 separate times before admitting it was real. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is public record. NHTSA filings, federal court documents, GM's own recall announcements and official statements. Every number in this video is sourced, documented, and verifiable. This is simply how the system works, and every GMC owner deserves to understand it. GM's pattern is consistent across both defects. Identify the problem internally. Delay public action as long as financially viable. Issue TSBs instead of recalls. Make warranty claims difficult. Fix the production line quietly. And when the recall finally comes, offer the cheapest possible remedy. The pattern isn't hidden, it's documented, and it repeats. There it is, the full story. A 6.2 with defective connecting rods that GM investigated 3 times and ignored for 3 years. A 5.3 with AFM lifters that have been failing for over a decade with no recall in sight. A TSB system designed to acknowledge problems without paying for them. A warranty process built to exhaust owners before it pays out. And a corporate math equation that puts compliance costs above the people driving those trucks. Remember the owner from the beginning. Engine dead on a bridge at 8,250 miles. That's not a statistic in a database. That's someone who trusted GM with $65,000 and got stranded in traffic with a seized engine before his first oil change was even due. If you own a GMC with the 5.3 or 6.2, go watch our video on 7 stupid engine habits killing your lifters, and the one on 5 banned upgrades dealers don't want you knowing. So both give you the tools to protect yourself when GM won't. See you in the next one.